I'm Courtney Fallon, and welcome to The Game Plan on Reach TV, your insider guide to this week's key NFL action. In The Game Plan, I tap into the Bleav podcast network to bring you the most important information that you need to know for this week's big games. As December rolls in, the fight for the playoff spots kicks it up a notch. Week 13 games will have a major impact on divisional races. To find out what storylines that you need to be following, I'm joined by former Cowboys receiver Jesse Holley from the Bleav in Cowboys podcast to go over the big questions of Week 13. Jesse, let's play 3 and out.
Let's do it.
Okay, so first is the race for the top seed in the AFC. It's heating up with the Ravens at 9-3, just percentage points in front of the Chiefs, Fins, and Jags at 8-3. Who goes for that top seed?
Yeah, tell me how many games Taylor Swift's going to be in attendance, and if she's going to be in attendance, then I'm going to go with the Chiefs. But if she's going to be on her tour, then I'm going to say the Baltimore Ravens will have the first the first seed in the AFC. So give me the Baltimore Ravens and Action Jackson.
Possibly the Ravens, but listen, I know that the better team will win. Who that should come down to. All right, second down, the Broncos. We're going to let Russ cook. We're going to let Russ cook a little bit. They're on a 5-game winning streak, but sit at 6-5 going into Week 13. Are they a sure bona fide playoff team at this point?
Yeah, you want to make sure that your team is peaking at the right time, right? And so when you thought Sean Payton is headed to Denver and Russell Wilson and they're going to come together, it takes time. Like, it takes a little bit of time and chemistry and understanding. It's like a relationship. The Denver Broncos, watch out, because that can be a team, because Russ still has some good quality quarterbacking in him, and Sean Payton, we know what he is as a head coach. So you put that together, and a little bit of health and a little bit of luck, you might have the Broncos kind of sneaking in there and making some noise.
It's proven in the playoffs, and we'll see how it goes down the stretch, and they can keep that good karma, that good cooking, I don't know, sauteing, whatever you want to call it for them over at Mile High.
Hibachi. The good hibachi.
All right, and finally, third down, the defenders this year are piling up sacks, including Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Khalil Mack, Danielle Hunter, Josh Allen, Micah Parsons. Who do you have as like this surefire defensive player of the year?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I do work for Bleav in the Cowboys, so there's a slight bias there and for Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
But I'll say this. He hasn't been a primary pass rusher like a TJ Watt or Myles Garrett, where those guys are doing nothing but pass rushing. But to throw a monkey wrench into the conversation, it has to be cornerback Deron Bland for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
When you look at what he's done this season, 5 interceptions, the great Deion Sanders in a 14-year career, he did it 9 times. Darrelle Revis Island in an 11-year career, he did it 3 times. Deron Bland in 11 games, 2 of which he didn't even start. He has 5 interceptions returned for a touchdown, 7 interceptions overall, and he has 6 games left remaining in the season. So I'm just saying, we talk about the pass rushers, but my money goes to Deron Bland.
That's a great point. It's a great point right there. I mean, he has a knack for the ball. All right, bonus question. I have to ask, Carolina Panthers, this is a job now. David Tepper and what he's done with this organization, firing 3 coaches in 3 years and this. And I mean, literally, this isn't a job that any coach wants to take on.
Yeah, any coach with a little bit of, skins on the wall, who's been around the block a little bit, will look at this job and go, I don't have any first-round picks. I have a meddling owner who won't let me kind of come in and do my job. My offensive line is pretty bad. I don't have weapons. I don't have much cash to go out and get things. While it may not be a dream job for a lot of veteran coaches, a young coach who's trying to find his way in the National Football League can look at that and go, you know what? That's a ripe opportunity for me to go in there and show my skill set.
To me, it's, I think it's the owner that needs to go handpick his guy. Because when it's the head coach and the general manager and they don't get along, and it's also the owner, that's a problem. So thanks so much for your time, Jesse. I really appreciate it. We'll hope to see you again soon.
Absolutely. Guys, have a great day.
All right. Coming up next, I'm breaking down my 3 key games that you need to know for Week 13. Stay right there. Each week, I like to focus on 3 key games that you need to know about entering Week 13 of the NFL. And I've circled these 3 matchups that we need to cover. Let's get to it. My first key matchup is a preview to the NFC Championship game. It's a battle between NFC division leaders as the Niners travel east to face the 10-1 Philadelphia Eagles in Philly. Ooh, it's a tough crowd there at the Link. The Niners are heading into Philly on a 3-game winning streak and will be looking for, the statement win of their season. Outside of an earlier 3-game skid earlier in the season, the Niners have buttoned up like the championship caliber team that everyone knows them to be, averaging over 30 points in their last 3 games. And that's because Brock Purdy is back and he is playing well. To find out what the Niners need to do to get out of Philly with a win, let's hear from Tracy Sandler from the Tracy Sandler Show on the Bleav Podcast Network. Trace, what do you got for me?
Thanks, Courtney. The 8-3 San Francisco 49ers head to Philadelphia for an NFC Championship rematch with the 10-1 Eagles. The 49ers are going to want to keep the Eagles in second and medium, third and medium, third and long, second and long situations. The 49ers D-line, which has certainly been boosted by Chase Young, also needs to bring pressure to quarterback Jalen Hurts and not let him extend plays with his legs. Over on the 49ers offense, Brock Purdy has been playing at a pretty elite level, as has wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, and that is not a coincidence. Their chemistry is a stalwart of the 49ers offense. Of course, they also have Christian McCaffrey, who we can expect to see touch the ball frequently. The 49ers wins have been big. The losses have been more difficult games they haven't been able to close out. So who will be able to do it this week? We shall see, but it will be a good one. Make sure to subscribe to the Tracy Sandler Show. And Courtney, back to you.
Thanks, Tracy. Okay, somehow they have to find a way to stop the tush push, which no team has figured out how to do that yet. Good luck with that, because I'm pretty sure this Philadelphia Eagles tush push is on the top of the offseason owners meetings agenda to prevent from happening in the NFL in the future. The Eagles have soared high all season long and sit at 10-1 with a commanding lead for the top seed in the NFC. They have currently won 5 straight on the heels of an overtime comeback thriller over the Bills last weekend that arguably could have been the best regular season game of the year to date. To find out how Philly extends their winning streak, let's hear from Mike Gill and Eitan Shander from the Bleav in Eagles podcast. Guys, what's the game plan?
Thanks, Courtney. The Eagles and the Niners, a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game. They have the best chances to make the Super Bowl together. The Eagles, though, with a win, they can take a commanding lead for the number 1 seed with a win over the Niners at the Link on Sunday. How do you see this one, Shander?
I see it going the same way, but it hinges on one key thing. The Philadelphia Eagles defense has to neutralize, not slow down, not somewhat impede, but neutralize Christian McCaffrey. They cannot get torched on the ground, because if they do, that pass defense is going to get torched. And it's not going to be deep downfield, Mike. You have to stop the run. C-Mac, first and foremost.
The Niners would have a 35% chance for the number 1 seed if they win this game. If they lose, just a 1% chance with the loss. I see the Eagles winning again. Eitan, Gil, back to you, Courtney.
Thanks, guys. Love it. Appreciate the insight as always. This is the game of the week. And I'll say it once and I'll say it again. The Eagles defense defeated Brock Purdy this past January due to an injury. The Eagles defense at the time was at the top of their game and headed for a Super Bowl, obviously. I have to take the Niners right now. They're well rested and they're ready to revenge that postseason loss. My second key game of Week 13 brings us out to the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field as the Packers host the reigning Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. The 8-3 Chiefs took care of business in Week 12 with a 31-17 win against the Raiders. Their offense was firing on all cylinders, with Patrick Mahomes passing for 298 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Isaiah Pacheco running in 2 of his own. To find out how the Chiefs can take back the number 1 seed this week, since Baltimore has their bye, we talked to former Kansas City Chief Joe Valerio and beat reporter Jeff Fedotin. Guys, what is the game plan?
Thanks, Courtney. Joe, the Chiefs have one of their toughest games left on the schedule. The Packers have won 2 in a row. They have a mini bye after playing on Thanksgiving in Lambeau Field at night. Your thoughts?
Well, anytime you go into Lambeau, it's going to be a challenge, Jeff, no matter how good the Packers are. But they are playing well right now, beating the Lions. And this is going to be a real challenge for the Chiefs going into Lambeau on Sunday night.
But one thing the Chiefs have going for them is kind of the continued emergence of rookie Rashee Rice.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that the Chiefs are going to have to deal with, right? Is getting a number one receiver that's going to be their go-to, take the pressure off of Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. I think they've got things rolling in the running game now with Isaiah Pacheco, but finding Rashee Rice as that number one and keep going with them, I think that should be their game plan.
And Joe, also what's excited about this matchup? Two historic teams. It's a rematch of Super Bowl I.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that part of it. These are two teams with unbelievable legacies, so that makes it even that much better.
All right, thanks, guys. And I totally agree. The Chiefs have to get Rashee Rice going early and often in this game. So the Packers are coming off an impressive Thanksgiving win against the Lions, their third win in the last 4 games. Jordan Love has been on a tear the past 2 games, throwing for 590 yards and 5 touchdowns and no interceptions. To find out if they can continue their winning ways against the Chiefs, let's hear from former Green Bay Packer Mike Wall from the Off My Block podcast. Mike, what can we expect from the Packers in their own house this week? Big game.
Thanks, Courtney. And the Packers are excited. They're coming off their biggest win of the season to Detroit. How do you maintain momentum against a great Kansas City Chiefs team on a wet Lambeau Field on Sunday? Number one, offensively, stay on schedule. Steve Spagnuolo runs a great Chiefs defense. Have to maintain a great third down average here this weekend by winning on first and second down. Whether it's run or pass, got to have positive yards first and second. Stay on schedule. Number 2, Patrick Mahomes is one of the best in the business at extending plays and finding open receivers. We have to have a pass rush plan, and we have to maintain pass rush integrity. Something the Packers have been hot and cold with as far as the defensive line for the last couple games. And then number 3, Jordan Love and those first and second year wide receivers and tight ends. Going to have a ton of opportunities because these pressure looks to be in hot routes, one-on-one matchups, and then big play opportunities. Not only see it, not only recognize it, but communicate it, whether it's verbally or non-verbally, and then execute. You can find me, MikeWall68 on Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram. On my blog, breaks down film on the Packers Monday and Thursday every single week. Find us on our Process to Perform channel. Back to you, Courtney.
Great call, Mike. If the Packers are going to have a shot, they have to stop Mahomes from extending the plays and breaking down the Packers defense with his feet. Consistency is key here. It seems at times the Chiefs are really missing Tyreek Hill, the man with the most reliable hands. A couple of very crucial drops late in games. I'm not a tattletale. You know who I'm talking about. A couple of Chiefs wide receivers. The Packers will keep this game close, but as always, the Chiefs will sneak out with the win. I'm taking Kansas City. And last but not least, my final key game for Week 13 has the AFC East leaders, the Miami Dolphins, headed north to our nation's capital to battle the Washington Commanders. The Finns have a comfortable lead in the AFC East as they sit at 8-3, but if they want to stay in contention for that top seed in the AFC, they cannot slip up and overlook a Washington team that is just doing everything they can to desperately ruin someone's postseason. To find out what Miami must do to get to 9-3, let's hear from Sam Marco and Chris Cullen from the Perfectville podcast on the Bleav Network. Guys, what do you got for me?
Thanks, Courtney. Chris, the Miami Dolphins are 8-3 and at the top of the AFC East. We all know what they have on offense, right? Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert, Jalen Waddle. What they don't have is the ability to hold on to the ball. Chris, Tua Tagovailoa has 10 interceptions on the season. A lot of those have gone for pick sixes. He also has 10 fumbles. The key to this game for the Miami Dolphins is to get right on offense, not turn the ball over to this Washington Commanders defense. What do they got to do on the other side of the ball to stop this Sam Howell quarterback?
Well, speaking of Sam Howell, I've been following him since his high school days at Sun Valley High School here in Indian Trail, North Carolina. And I'm going to tell you right now, he's going to test our defense. He is leading the NFL in passing yards, but he's also the most pressured and sacked quarterback in the NFL since David Carr, not Derek Carr, David Carr and the expansion Texans. So the Dolphins have to get after Sam, pressure the quarterback, and they can come out with another W. Back to you, Courtney.
Thanks, guys. Okay, yes, I agree. Limit the turnovers on offense and do not give the Commanders any additional opportunities. The Commanders are dead last in the NFL in points against, giving up over 29 a game. That stat cost defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio his job, and Washington sitting at the bottom of the NFC East. Don't forget, Washington, they were huge sellers at the trade deadline, trading away Chase Young and Montez Sweat. To find out what the Commanders can do to stop the high-powered Miami offense, let's hear from Anthony Armstrong and Brian Murphy from the Bleav in Commanders podcast. Guys, tough task this Sunday.
Thanks, Courtney. Yeah, so week 13, a tough matchup for the Commanders. They have the Miami Dolphins coming into town. We know what Tua, Tyreek, all those guys can do on that high-flying Miami offense. But, Anthony, I want to ask you, what is the biggest thing that you're looking at when it comes to the Commanders trying to slow down this high-powered O?
The name of the game for that offense is speed. Raheem Mostert, Devin Achane, Tyreek Hill, you mentioned him, and Jalen Waddle. Those guys are fast. And you've seen what the Commanders' defenses have given up this year against the pass. It could get ugly, but the best thing I think they could do is let the grass grow a little bit longer this week.
The thing that I was thinking of was control the football as best you can. A lot of Brian Robinson, a lot of Antonio Gibson, maybe some long sustained drives to keep those playmakers off the field for Miami might be really the only shot the Commanders have this week.
It can be difficult for Sam Howell in this offense to get the ball moving through the air, so maybe you got to lean to that ground game.
It's going to be a tough matchup. We'll see what happens in week 13. Back to you, Courtney.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. So taking away Miami's speed is a top priority. Listen, that is a tall order. It's understandable, but Tyreek Hill does incredible things I don't think anyone has ever seen on a football field, maybe since Jerry Rice. Also, Jalen Ramsey putting in good work on the secondary. He's back from injury. This is a no contest victory. Miami runs away with this one. All right, those are my 3 key games for the week. Next up is everything you need to know to win your fantasy matchup. Okay, it is that time of the show where we play Pick 6 on the game plan. And joining me to pick his Week 13 lineup is actually an old friend of mine from up in Boston in WEEI. But he is Khari Thompson from the Bleav in Ravens podcast. Khari, a warm welcome to the Game Plan Show. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I would definitely pick covering the Ravens right now over covering the Patriots.
Well, listen, an imminent Super Bowl possible berth, and the other one is going down to the potential top 3 pick in the draft. So, as it always happens, the guests on our show come on and they pick their top position players for the week, whether to pick up on a waiver wire or to play. And we are going to do that starting off with one of our personal favorites down here in South Florida. So why do you love the Dolphins quarterback as your QB1 this week?
Well, you look at the stats, obviously, the volume numbers, right? You've got the 4th leading passer in the NFL right now, the most explosive and just most efficient offense in the NFL right now with the Miami Dolphins. And you look at who they're playing this week, the Washington Commanders, who have been giving up some big passing numbers to a bunch of different teams. And then you look at this offense where you've got Tua, who's one of the best anticipation throwers in the NFL, got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle running around. There's all kinds of potential for big numbers for Tua this week.
We love it, and I'm not going to give you a little spoiler, but someone that you just mentioned is going to be our wide receiver. But listen, we go by position players on the depth chart. So running back Rachaad White, why is he your guy this week?
Well, he's been a double-digit fantasy scorer for the last 5 weeks or so. I mean, it's not just he's scoring touchdowns, but he's averaging 98 total yards from scrimmage and just came off a game where he had 100 yards rushing last week. And once again, matchup is favorable for him. I think Rachaad White has proven that he can get it done for you pretty much week in, week out at this point.
I'm really a big fan of all of these picks so far, and this Commanders defense, their secondary, they give up the most points to wide receivers. And I mean, all I gotta say is get your popcorn ready. What do you think about Tyreek Hill? What kind of damage can he do this week on your fantasy roster?
I mean, you think about somebody like DJ Moore going off for 200 plus yards a bunch of weeks ago. And then you think about what Tyreek Hill, still one of the fastest receivers in football, and goodness knows they find however many ways to get that man open. I mean, it just feels like a cinch because again, this Dolphins offense is going to be able to take advantage of a Commanders team that likes to try to play man-to-man. But if they don't, there's a lot of easy pickings in that secondary.
Mr. Unpredictability, it's all about the improvisation on the field. All right, moving along. We're moving along quite nicely. Tight end David Njoku. Why is he your number 1 tight end?
He forces missed tackles better than just about anybody else in the league. And again, the matchup is favorable against a Los Angeles Rams team that can be had through the air. So I think if you want to go for a little bit of a softer matchup with somebody who's going to get a lot of targets as a safety blanket for whomever backup quarterback is in there for the Cleveland Browns, that could be a good bet for you.
David Njoku, a bright spot. And by the way, that, yards after catch, it's called the yak. All right, your defense. The Atlanta Falcons, who are division leaders. I mean, like what?
They've got some uncertainty, right, at quarterback where you're saying to yourself, do you trust Desmond Ridder? Do you trust Taylor Heineke or whomever you're putting behind center? But you can trust this defense. It is good. It is deep. It is aggressive. And we don't know who's playing quarterback for the New York Jets. That just feels like easy pickings, stealing in terms of go ahead and put the Falcons on your roster this week.
Anything could go. If it gets bad against the Jets, we'll see. All right, Khari, we're at the final pick of your pick 6. Who was your waiver wire pickup for this week?
Being a Baltimore Ravens reporter, I have been talking about a certain young, undrafted free agent running back named Keaton Mitchell since preseason, and I am going to talk to y'all about him right now. He is the fastest guy on the Baltimore Ravens team, and he got starting running back kinds of snaps. Look for that role to continue to increase going forward.
He had some electric runs, and we have had our eye on this. That is a great choice. I love all of your choices. Khari, thank you so much for joining us on the game plan today. We hope you come back.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right, that's all the time we have on the game plan today. Go check out the Bleav Podcast Network for more in-depth analysis on every team in the league. And don't forget, you can catch every NFL game live on Reach TV all season long. We'll see you next week.